Welcome to this live English lesson about a very unhappy topic, but sometimes we have to talk about the good things. Sometimes we have to talk about the bad things. Today is one of those bad things. Today we will be talking about man-made disasters. And one of the first things we will talk about is what is the difference between man-made disasters and natural disasters. But before we get to that, I would like to say hello to a couple people who are joining us. By the way, eager to learn, became a channel member before the stream started. I have a little something for you. Watch your ears. This gets a little loud. New member. Make sure you check the members tab for the Discord, the members chat, and the bonus videos. Yeah, so if you do become a member, we just had a members chat. We do that at least once a month. It's usually twice a month. But if you are a gold member, you can come on camera and speak. And we just had a members chat. Anya, Danny, Tanya were on speaking with us. Good stuff there. We also have a Discord. So feel free to check that out. France is in the house. Welcome. Zazadu. I hope I'm saying that right. And Tanya is here again. Anya is here again. Good to see you. Michael is here again. Germany is definitely in the house. Thomas, welcome. Etienne, hope you're doing well. Abdi, welcome. Freddie Wolf, Danny, can't forget about France. France is in the house. Welcome. We are also live streaming on Facebook. If you would like to chat, head over to YouTube. It's American English with Brent, because I don't dare put the Facebook chat on YouTube. They don't like it too much. Luzvin, hello. Thank you for being a channel member. Good to see you. Mega, India is here. I hope it's not too late in India. There are 56 people watching. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope you're ready to learn about some man-made disasters. Let's get to it. The first thing we do need to talk about is what's a disaster in English? And how is that different from a natural disaster? Because today we are talking about man-made disasters. Well, if you look at the bottom, a disaster is something really bad that happens. Man-made is the opposite of natural. People are not to blame for natural disasters. I will probably do an English lesson on natural disasters, but if you know what earthquakes are, or tsunamis, or hurricanes and tornadoes, well, people aren't to blame for that. It's just natural. It happens naturally. If you believe in God, well, maybe you think God has something to do with it, or maybe just Mother Nature. It's just something that happens. But today, we are going to talk about disasters, and it's man's fault. It's humans' fault that these things happen. And in that picture, in the background, you might see what we call a nuclear power plant. Right over there is a nuclear power plant. These were way more common in the 1980s. In my state, where I live, Maine, we had a nuclear power plant. And we would get our energy from nuclear power, something that looks like that. But it closed down a few years ago because people were worried about safety. Nuclear accident. Take a look down there. A nuclear accident is when something goes wrong at a nuclear power plant, releasing dangerous levels of radiation. Yes, in English, we call this stuff radiation. Let's talk about what it is. I'm going to show you a symbol in just a minute, and hopefully you will know what it is in your language, and you will say, oh, I know what radiation is. Radiation is a form of energy. Energy is good, right? Because of energy, you can watch me on the internet. But radiation is a type of energy that can go through different kinds of material, including humans. And that is when bad things happen. In a nuclear power plant, you have what we might call silos, and that keeps the radiation contained. It doesn't let it out. It doesn't let it seep out. That is a good English phrasal verb, to seep out. Think of a car tire. It is filled with air. Well, if you roll over a nail, the air might seep out. That means to go out of it slowly. So with nuclear power plants, you want radiation to stay in there. Let's talk about a couple sentences that use nuclear accidents. The nuclear accident scared the nearby residents because of the radiation. And of course, you can't see the radiation. And when we talk about some of these nuclear disasters, it's hard to say how many people died or how many people were affected. How about this sentence? What are some bad things that radiation can do to you? Well, some bad things radiation can do to humans is burn our skin, cause cancer, and hurt unborn babies still inside their mother's bellies. So you can see, we might call this a fetus. It's a little baby inside the mother. And radiation can really affect the development of a baby. They will not grow as they should if radiation is involved. Now, sometimes doctors will use radiation when we talk about X-rays. That might be one of the first English words you learn, X-ray, because not too many words in English begin with X. So a lot of times when you are learning the English alphabet, X-ray will be the example for X. Doctors use a special kind of radiation to take X-rays and see inside our bodies. But too much radiation can be dangerous. So if a doctor thinks you might have broken your leg, they might take an X-ray to see if the bone is broken. Sometimes when I go to the dentist, I will need X-rays of my teeth. They will put this machine by my mouth, take an X-ray of my teeth, but I will wear, we might call it a lead vest in English. They make you wear this vest so that the radiation doesn't go into your chest. They just want it in this one spot. And whoever is giving the X-ray, we might call them an X-ray technician. Big word. I think this is an advanced English lesson. The person who gives you your X-ray is an X-ray technician. Well, they might leave the room when the radiation goes through your mouth. So too much radiation can be bad. Radiation can damage the cells in your body, which make it hard for your body to work the way it should. Cells. That is a science term in English. It's basically the smallest parts of your body. You need a microscope to see your cells. This is a good time to check the chat, see if there are any questions. We have already covered a lot in this English lesson. Radiation, X-rays, cells, X-ray technician. If you have a question about anything, leave it in the chat. If you are watching on Facebook, come over to YouTube, American English with Brent, and I will put your question on the screen. Oh dear. Michael says sometimes he is a man-made disaster. Happens to the best of us. It happens to the best of us. Tanya says a disaster would be missing the live lesson about man-made disasters. I agree. That would be a disaster. Hello to anyone watching on replay. Eager to learn. Thank you for becoming a channel member. She says, I really love the way of your teaching. Thank you so much. Oh, and you are from India. South Sudan is in the house. Welcome. Freddie Wolf, adding a little more science to the lesson, says radiation can damage our DNA. Little correction, Freddie. For some reason, radiation is never plural. It is always singular. So radiation can damage our DNA. Yeah, and DNA for an unborn baby, a baby that is still developing in their mother's womb. We might also use that word, mother's womb, instead of belly. That would be more of a scientific name. Yeah, it can be horrible. Mariposa, it's been a while. Welcome. Can you explain the difference between a technician and a technologist? Please. Technologist. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know if I would ever use technologist. Let's see. If I heard that, so whenever you hear ology at the end of an English word, that means the study of. So like biology is the study of life. Biologist is someone who studies life. So just by that definition, I would say a technologist is someone who is interested in technology. But I don't think I use technologist that often. A technician is someone who works with a very specific skill. So an X-ray technician, their one job, because it is so important, is to work with X-rays. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. India is in the house. Welcome. Yeah, I do, Mariposa. I do remember you. I do. All right. Back to the lesson. 102 people are watching on YouTube and Facebook. It is good to see all of you. We were talking about X-rays, but now let's talk about a couple specific nuclear disasters. If you know anything about flags, there are two flags on the screen. Please let me know in the chat. Do you know either of these two countries? One still exists. One no longer exists. In 1991, this one country became 15 countries, I think. Oh, so close. So close. Definitely Japan is one of them. In English, we call that country Japan. That is the white flag with the red circle. Yeah. Etienne. And so in English, we would say the Soviet Union. Etienne, nicely done. Japan and the Soviet Union. So now, I think the first one we talk about is Chernobyl. And Freddie, very nice. I believe that is the way you say it in Russian, but we might say USSR in English, or we might say the Soviet Union. So maybe you already know what I am going to talk about, but Chernobyl. That's how we say it in English. Chernobyl. Easy for me to say. Chernobyl was a terrible accident that happened in the Soviet Union. It's now Ukraine in 1986, causing many people to get sick. So this was in April 28th, I think, of 1986. Chernobyl is remembered as one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. It is unclear how many people died, but 31 died from the first waves of radiation. So within a couple days, 31 people who were exposed to that radiation, probably because they were trying to fix the problem, they died shortly after the accident. But we don't know how many people died from the long-term effects of the radiation. So maybe 10 years down the road, people developed cancer because they were exposed to the radiation. So if I had the Japanese flag and the old Soviet flag, we now need to talk about Japan. And this one. In English, we say Fukushima. Fukushima. That could be totally wrong. In Japan, they may say it in Japanese differently, but we say Fukushima. This was another nuclear disaster. It happened in 2011. This was caused by natural disasters. So it's a little different. Chernobyl, it was because humans messed up. This man-made disaster was caused by a natural disaster. So let's talk a little bit about that. Fukushima was a nuclear accident in Japan in 2011, caused by a big earthquake and tsunami. Now, the reason I didn't say this was a natural disaster is because humans built that nuclear power plant. If it didn't exist, it wouldn't have been a big disaster. It would have been just the tsunami and earthquake. But because people built the nuclear power plant right near the ocean that might experience a tsunami, well, I think that humans are to blame for this one. But after the Fukushima accident, people around the world talked more about nuclear safety. And I know in Germany, there were plans to build about 12 new nuclear power plants in Germany. And after Fukushima, the German government said, maybe we need to think about this a little more. One last one. Just because I didn't want to leave the United States out of the disasters, A small disaster happened in the United States back in 1979 at a place called 3 Mile Island. 3 Mile Island was a nuclear accident in the United States in 1979, but it wasn't as bad as the other two. No, this could have been bad because 3 Mile Island, it's in the state of Pennsylvania, but it's very close, or it was very close to New York City. Luckily, people caught this in time, so it was not a major disaster. It could have been bad. 3 Mile Island accident led to many changes in how nuclear power plants are run. Luckily, the problem was caught in time. All right, we are going to talk about a couple other ways radiation can damage you, but let's check the chat. Let's just make sure. Okay, Michael is talking more about how he is a man-made disaster. All right, Brent, let me just fix the location of Chernobyl. Yes, it belongs to Ukraine, not Russia. That is true. It was part of the Soviet Union, which is why I had the Soviet flag, the hammer and the sickle, and it is in present-day Ukraine. Just checking the chat. All right, Thomas. He may be an older gentleman like myself, and he can remember all of these disasters. When 3 Mile Island happened, I was a baby, so I do not remember that one. I was about 4 years old, but I do remember Chernobyl. I was about 11 years old, and definitely Fukushima I remember. All right. Okay, in France, because of Chernobyl, I heard that there was a radiation cloud that moved over a lot of Europe, right? Sweden was affected. Yeah, eager to learn. Great point. Yeah, there could be different diseases while the children are developing in their mother's womb. Uranium, that's what we call it in English. That is the major natural resource that creates nuclear energy, uranium. Could be similar in other languages like French or Spanish. All right, Michael. Chernobyl was scary. We weren't allowed to feed hay we made shortly after the accident. All the milk in our region was dumped for weeks. Michael, I did not know that. That is pretty scary. Thank you for sharing. All right, Thomas. I think Thomas is from Germany, right? So we have no nuclear power plants anymore. Yeah, all of the nuclear power plants near me have also closed. We had something called Maine Yankee. When I was in elementary school, we actually toured it. My school took a bus and we toured the nuclear power plant, but they closed it down shortly after. All right. Don't want to get the French government in too much trouble. Ukraine is in the house over on Facebook. If you are watching on Facebook, if you want to chat, I will put your comment on the screen, but I don't want to make YouTube mad. So I can see your chat. I just can't put it on the screen. American English with Brent, if you would like to chat on screen. Muhammad, how old am I? I'm an old man. Can you see the gray in my beard? My hair that I no longer have? I am 48 years old. An old man, old enough to remember Chernobyl. Well, the only, man-made disasters come in many styles, not just nuclear power plants. But before we move on to other great topics like oil spills and mining disasters, let's talk about a couple other things that could happen to your body if you are exposed to radiation. If your skin is exposed to a lot of radiation, it can cause burns, similar to a bad sunburn. And I have talked about sunburns in other English lessons. I think the one about the skin. Yeah, and there is a picture of somebody burning their skin. Like, that's really bad. That is a really bad burn. The next one, the next man-made disaster. What about an oil spill? Oil. Right now, I am warm inside my house because of oil. If you own a car or if you take the bus, there's a good chance that oil keeps your engine running smoothly. It's a dark black liquid. Well, sometimes when the oil goes from one place to the other, it can leak or it can spill. And in English, we call it an oil spill. An oil spill is when a lot of oil gets into the ocean or onto land, hurting animals and the environment. Let me make this picture bigger. You can see there is a large ship on a large body of water, maybe the ocean, maybe a really large lake, and it looks like there isn't as much water in that picture as there is black, inky oil, which is not good for anybody. You want the oil in your house, you want the oil in your car, you don't want it in the water or on the land. Here's an example sentence. The oil spill covered the birds in black oil, making it hard for them to fly. Yeah, very sad picture here. One of the biggest oil spill disasters took place in the United States. I will talk about this. I also remember this disaster, and a lot of birds were covered in that oil, and it made it very difficult for them to fly. So I worried that many birds were being killed because of the oil spill, and I think that is what happened, unfortunately. This was big news back in 1989 in the United States. The Exxon Valdez, we called it in English. The Exxon Valdez was a big ship that spilled oil in Alaska in 1989, causing a lot of environmental damage. Environment. We need to talk about that word in just a second. But right now, I would like to take a break, take a sip of water, play a little something for you, and then get back to the English lesson. Where's my music? Here it is. Here it is. Hopefully it's not too loud for you.
If this lesson is helping your English improve, don't forget to tap that like button and share it with a friend who's learning English.
All right, I've taken a sip of water. Hopefully you have been reminded, if this English lesson is helping you, click the like button, subscribe, share it with a friend, all that good stuff. 103 people are watching. I hope you are all doing well. Let's check the chat here. Oh, there is some new things in the chat. All right. Do you think every major city in the world has pollution, like smog? Yeah, I don't think we're talking about smog in this English lesson. I think there might be 3 parts to this man-made disasters lesson. But yeah, smog, we will talk about it. I know some cities have more smog than others, but I do know that when I visit New York City, I do find it harder to breathe. We need to talk about the environment, don't we? Let's check the chat. See here. All right. Iwa, I hope I say that name correctly. I know you are from Ukraine. I remember the Chernobyl disaster. I was a child then. Because Poland borders Ukraine, we had to drink a special liquid that protected us against radiation. Interesting. Oh, so maybe you are from Poland. I'm sorry. I will be visiting Poland this summer. I can't wait. But I did not know that you had to drink a special liquid that protected against radiation. I didn't even know one existed. All right. Checking the chat here. Oh, so at least the U.S. is not the only one who has major oil spills. Freddie says we had a huge oil disaster near the French beaches, which killed thousands of animals. Super, super sad. Ooh. Amoko Cadiz? I'm probably saying that wrong. Thank you, Freddie. All right, Abdi, what is the cause of oil spills? Well, I think it's different for every oil spill, but for the one I talked about before, the Exxon Valdez, that big ship was coming into a narrow part of the ocean, I believe. And the captain of the ship had a few too many alcoholic drinks. He was drunk, and he actually ran the ship into some land, and it caused the oil to spill out of the vessel, the oil tanker. Yeah. Very sad. Yeah, Michael wasn't the captain of the Exxon Valdez drunk. That's what I remember. Yes. I'm glad you said that. Because I think if both of us are thinking that, then that is correct. So the last thing we talked about was environmental. That might be tough. So oil spills can cause a lot of environmental damage. Environmental is an adjective. It describes things. So environmental is an adjective describing natural things like air, land, water, plants, and animals. The environment is the noun. So the environment, natural things, and a lot of times during these man-made disasters, the environment suffers the most. Speaking of the environment, another problem that humans cause is something we call deforestation in English. Very big word. Deforestation. It is happening all over the world. It has happened all over the world. But right now, when I hear of deforestation, I think of Brazil. And I think of the Amazon rainforest. Let's talk about what deforestation is. Deforestation. Another man-made disaster is deforestation. Deforestation is cutting down lots of trees, which is bad for the earth and animals living in the forest. Yeah, I mean, it's bad for humans too. Excuse me. Because a little science, you probably know this in your own language, but I will explain it in English. Humans breathe in oxygen. We breathe out carbon dioxide. And one thing that produces a lot of oxygen are trees. So we really need trees for fresh air to breathe. But if there is deforestation, that's not good for us. That's not good for the environment. It's not good for the animals that live in those forests. And as I mentioned earlier, deforestation in the Amazon rainforest is a big problem for the whole planet. And I asked AI to make me a picture of the Amazon rainforest. I hope that's accurate. I'm not sure. But that is supposed to be the Amazon rainforest, which is mostly in Brazil. We have another one here. This picture is hard to look at. I hope you don't have water pollution where you live. Water pollution is when harmful things get into the water, making it unsafe for drinking and living creatures. Here's a sentence that I think goes well with this picture. The factory caused water pollution by dumping waste into the river. In the background, you can see all of the smoke coming from the factory. We will talk about air pollution in just a minute. But right now, it is about water pollution. Air pollution, air pollution is when the air gets dirty from things like car exhaust and factory smoke, making it unhealthy to breathe. Exhaust. Think about like exhale. When you breathe in, you inhale. When you breathe out, you exhale. Exhaust from a car is all of the smoke that comes out of a car while it's running. Exhaust. You can imagine exhaust from cars and trucks. That is not good for the environment either. We call it air pollution. It is in this lesson that we talk about smog. That was mentioned earlier. So here is a big city. I mean, those might be low clouds there, but since we are talking about man-made disasters, it's going to be pollution here. The air pollution in the city is so bad that sometimes you can see smog hanging in the air. Smog. That might be a new term for you. Smog looks like smoke or fog. Smoke or fog, but it is full of pollutants. Seems like every new sentence, there is a new word. I try to do that. We'll talk about pollutants in a minute. But smog, it looks like fog. Fog is like low-lying clouds. Might look like smoke, but is full of pollutants. Pollutants. What are pollutants? We've talked about pollution. Pollution is like the bigger thing. Pollutants is the smaller things. You can even see the pollutants in the water. So air pollution is just like a general term, like the air is not great to breathe. But if we go back to that picture of that river, it's full of waste, but you could also say pollutants. Pollutants are smaller things that cause pollution. I hope that is clear. Let's check the chat. See if there are any questions or comments. Vocabulary with Ali. I hope you are doing well. Adem. In Bangladesh, so many trees are cut down that it's leading to flooding. Yeah, every year I hear about Bangladesh during rainy season. There are so many people that live there near the water that flooding can cause a lot of damage. Ivana, how are you? It has been a while. Welcome. Poland, I believe, right? Dump. Is it a synonym to throw? If a word is a synonym, it means the same thing. So you can dump your trash. You can throw out your trash. So they're very close. You could dump out your trash. You could throw out your trash. So we do make phrasal verbs with them. But also dump can be the place where a city will bring their trash. Like all of the citizens of the city, there might be a place in the city where all the trash goes. That is also called a dump. So sometimes they are a synonym and sometimes they are not. FD, do you think deforestation occurs in large areas, tropical forests? I do. If you are watching on Facebook, I don't want to put any comments up with the Facebook logo. So if you would like to come on to YouTube and write your question or your comment there, it would probably be better. It's American English with Brent. Good question. Smug. Smog. Smug. Smog. Two slightly different pronunciations. Tanya, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. I do have a little something for you, and it is right here. It's right here. Right here. Right here. Watch your ears. It could be a little loud.
Oh, thank you so much for the super chat.
Thank you, Tanya. That's very helpful. You are very generous. Thank you so much. Pakistan is in the house. I just watched a video yesterday from Pakistan. One of my favorite YouTubers, Simon Wilson, took a train from, I think, Islamabad up to the Kush Valley. Is that right? I think. It looks like a great place to visit. All right. Tom, I'm not going to put that up on there. I don't know, man. That's an interesting word there. All right. Just checking the chat, see if anything else is going on. Tanya, thank you for that super chat. All right. There we go. Perfect. All right. I'm right. Okay, maybe. Yeah. I mean, Pakistan looks like a great place to visit. Oh, thank you so much. I learn very fast when I listen to you. Nastaran, thank you so much. All right. I'm not going to get too political. Singapore can be a little controversial, but it's hard to say that they don't have clean cities, right? I think some of the punishments are harsh for littering, but hey, it keeps the city clean. Absolutely. We have a couple more to talk about. If you are still ready to learn more English, next thing we should talk about, well, look at that. That is not good. That is a very polluted river. But the next thing I would like to talk about is something we call an urban fire. In English, an urban fire. So when you hear urban in English, think big city. Luckily, this does not happen as often because most modern buildings in a city are not made from wood. So a lot of these older man-made disasters, when we talk about urban fires, will be from when cities were mostly made out of wooden buildings. So an urban fire is a large fire that happens in a city, often destroying many buildings. Urban is another way to say city. Here is an example sentence using urban fire. The urban fire spread quickly because the houses were made from wood and were so close together. So we are going to talk about two old urban fires and one that happened in 2023 in the United States. Very sad situation. Okay, this is the London one. I asked AI, create a photo or an image of what the London fire may have looked like. So the Great Fire of London in 1666 was a huge fire that destroyed much of the city. London, England, you have probably heard of it. 1666, there was a fire that destroyed most of London. The buildings were made of wood. They were close together. After the Great Fire of London, the city was rebuilt with safer, more fire-resistant buildings. Fire-resistant. Resistant might be a new word for you. Resistant comes from resist, which means to stop something from happening. I like pizza. I like pizza quite a bit. Sometimes I eat too much pizza. So a lot of times after I eat 2 pieces of pizza, I will resist eating a third. I will stop myself. No, Brent, you do not need that third piece of pizza. Please resist. Stop. So resistant, if something is fire resistant, it is less likely to catch on fire. That's the phrasal verb we will use. The building catches on fire. The building caught on fire. Now this next one. AI, you messed up. I asked AI, hey, create an image of the Boston fire of 1872. And this is what it did. Here's what the Great Boston Fire was. The Great Boston Fire in 1872 was a big fire that destroyed a large part of Boston. 1872. I'm going to make this picture a lot bigger. And if you are in the chat watching live, I would like you to tell me what is wrong with this picture. 1872. Yeah, AI, you messed up again. What is wrong with this picture? Please let me know in the chat. Ooh, resist. Like pushing back. I love it. Ivana, what's the difference between made of and made from? Nothing. Luckily, nothing. They are the same. All right, I learned about the fire in 1666. teacher said we should learn a lesson and be careful with fire. Great advice. Great advice. So does anybody, okay, Atem? The water spray position? I would say yes. That is part of it. I didn't even think of that. We're talking 1872. It looks like those firefighters are using hoses that are pretty powerful. I would agree. I don't think in 1872 they had that. I would agree. Mustafa, look at the fire trucks. They look like they could be fire trucks in 2024. Excuse me. Yeah, they did not have those types of fire trucks in, what year were we talking? 1872? Yeah. They did not have those types of fire trucks in 1872. Etienne, I totally agree with you. Ooh, Kurdistan is in the house. Welcome. Thomas says, the engines are too modern. Correct. I agree, Zanwar. Yeah. AI. Come on. You had one job. Make it look like 1872, not 2024. And I did not even think about the spray from the hoses. They were probably using buckets of water. And that's another reason why urban fires happened so long ago. They didn't have fire trucks. They didn't have powerful hoses to help put the fire out. They probably just had buckets of water. Okay, so this one is super sad because this happened in modern day, like 2023, the United States. It happened in Maui, which is part of the state of Hawaii. So unfortunately, Unfortunately, in 2023, Maui experienced a severe fire that caused a lot of damage to homes and nature. The Maui fire in 2023 reminded everyone of the importance of being prepared for natural disasters. Yeah. Natural disasters. So urban fires, they can be natural disasters. If you know what lightning is, well, if lightning strikes a building and it causes an entire city to burn down, you could say that was natural. Well, but maybe humans built the buildings too close to each other. Also, sometimes people accidentally start fires. That is tragic if that happens. If somebody starts a fire on purpose or intentionally, we call that arson in English. Arson. All right. Another man-made disaster. This can be a little tricky. Mining disasters. A mine. Let's talk about what a mine is. A mine is a noun. It's a thing. Mining disasters are serious accidents in mines where miners can get hurt or die, often because of explosions or collapses. Take a look at this picture. This is a mine. A mine. They are underground and they have valuable things in there. Could be diamonds. So humans will dig under the ground so they can get these valuable things. But unfortunately, it's a dangerous job. But we also have a different kind of mine in English. Mine can be used to show a person owns something. Like, that is mine. Like, here's my phone. My is an adjective describing my phone, showing it belongs to me. But that phone is mine is another way you can say that that's your thing. It is mine. That is my water bottle. That is mine. But mine is also a place under the ground where valuable things can be found. Mining disasters. Now that you know what a mine is, let's read that one more time. Mining disasters are serious accidents in mines where miners can get hurt or die, often because of explosions or collapses. We'll talk about collapses in just a minute. But miners are people who work in mines. Miners. At least the way it's spelled there. If it's... Man, English can be so difficult, right? If it's spelled... Okay, I'll write this in the chat. If it's spelled like this, minor, that means somebody who is under 18. So a minor could work in a mine, but a minor could also be someone who is not an adult, someone who is under 18. Yeah, AI. I love AI. I love using AI to make pictures. But sometimes they mess up. Give them a couple years, they probably won't mess up anymore. Yeah. All right. Oh, thank you so much. That was very nice of you. Love you, sir. Thank you. I do have fun teaching English here. Right. We are almost done. This has been almost an hour long, but there are still 79 people watching. So let's talk about these last couple. So I'm going to talk about a couple mines that I hope I don't mispronounce. Oh yeah, we need to talk about collapse. Collapse. So collapse is a noun. Collapse is a verb. It's something that happens. It's something you do. If a mine collapses, the mine's walls fall down. If people are in the mine, that can be super dangerous. They could get trapped in that mine and not be able to get out. They might lose that oxygen we talked about. They might not be able to breathe. Here's a sentence using minor disaster or mining disaster. The mining disaster left the small town grieving for those who were lost. If somebody is grieving, they probably have had a loved one die. Maybe a close family member or a friend. If somebody is grieving, someone close to them has died. Oh, goodness. I hope I say this correctly. It's a Chinese word written in English. If I say it wrong and you are Chinese, please let me know. I apologize. The Benqihu? That can't be right. The Benqihu Collier disaster in 1942 in China was the world's deadliest mining accident, killing many miners. Over 1,500 miners lost their lives. Excuse me. So this happened in China in 1942. Very tragic. This looks like it could have happened in 1942. There are horses. There is an older looking car there. So not too bad, I guess. So I do not want to get too political, but part of the problem was that Japan controlled China at this time, and the mining wasn't that safe. So that's all I'll talk about. Now this next one, I'm nervous because I do know that there are people in France watching right now, and I can't say this in French. I will do my best to kind of say it in English, but I will mess it up. I know. I'm scared. I know exactly how you feel when you try to speak English. At first, it can be quite scary. The couriers, that's so wrong. The couriers mine disaster in France in 1906 was the deadliest mining disaster in Europe. Almost 1,100 miners died that day. So, do I not have a picture? Oh, this one might be the one in China. And this one in 1906, this is the French one. Okay. China, France. All right. Not too bad, AI. Not too bad. Okay. Well, that is the lesson on man-made disasters. Part 1. There might be a part 2 in the future because let's face it, humans, we make a lot of mistakes. We damage the environment quite a bit. Plenty to talk about. All right. That's it. All right, that's good right there, right? Where are you going? Mine. Oh, what will you do there? Mine. Whose car is this? Mine. Yeah, English. We use the same word for different things. It can be so confusing if you are an English learner. All right, Manuel. Hey, good to see you. Long comment here. Let's see. AI could tell us who killed the former President of the United States, Kennedy. All right, 2001, A Space Odyssey. Okay, I've seen that movie there. Yeah, so you think AI could shed some light on the... I don't even think I want to say it. YouTube gets weird when you talk about certain things. So I'll just say President Kennedy. Okay, you feel my pain, right? You know how it is when you try to speak French and French is not your native language. I did speak a little Arabic. Oh, I do not have my glasses on. I'm not sure if that is Arabic or Persian. I wish I knew that flag. Let's see. Just try to find that flag here. All right, is that Egypt? Is that flag? But I learned Habibi in Arabic. Habibi, which I think means love. Love. All right, that is going to do it for the lesson. What? AI was born near there. Okay. Manual. Minor problem. Yeah. AI is not Oh, Egypt. Okay. Thank you. Egypt. All right. I must go. Thank you so much for joining me for this live session. If you're watching on replay, if you're listening to the podcast, Habibi, right? Love, I think, right? All right. It's not Egypt. Okay. It's Palestine, maybe? Palestine? All right. Etienne, Tanya, thank you. I'm just rambling now, right? I must go. But I do want to thank you all for joining. I hope you had as much fun as I did. I like teaching English. Hopefully you're learning something here. All right. Mariposa, great to see you.